All right, let's get to the other topic. The other topic being, the other topic being immigration and refugees. The dangers of refugees and immigrants, how they ruin everything, how they steal jobs, and how they destroy the economy. The one thing I can criticize the old government till, I don't know, the cows go home, but there's certainly one thing that the old government has done well and that the new government has been continuing as its policy, and that is how the refugees from Ukraine have been treated and well integrated into Polish society. For example, Ukrainian refugees did not have to apply for a worker's permit in Poland. Did you know that? Apparently, when it comes to worker permits, um, it was all on the side of the person hiring workers. So a Ukrainian person would get hired, and it would be the job of the person hiring to take care of the permit, which meant that from a Ukrainian person's perspective, it was much easier to get a job, and much more people just got a job very quickly because for a Ukrainian person, that's there's also this element of Ukrainian people learning Polish fairly quickly, the whole culture shock not being very big because the cultures are quite similar, and yeah, it meant that many people just got a job, which in turn meant that Ukrainians in Poland became a driving force behind the GDP. And according to new data by a performed by gathered by an organization, it was sort of requested by the United Nations to do this sort of research survey, if you will, into just how much Ukrainian refugees are bringing into the Polish economy. And it seems, from all possible evidence, it looks like Ukrainian refugees have already put more into the budget than what was given to Ukrainian people by the Polish government via, you know, social services and all the other things that were meant to help Ukrainian people in Poland. Ukrainian people have already put more into the budget than they've taken out, which means that Ukrainian people have in effect became the boosters of Polish economy, which is actually also very funny and interesting because the conditions for Ukrainian people were made good enough that apparently the Ukrainian government itself has sort of stepped in to say, please don't create too good an environment for people here because we really would not want them to stay forever. We would like them to, at some point, return to Ukraine and help us rebuild. So please don't sweeten the deal too much. Don't make Ukrainian people want to stay here forever. And so we're gonna get into an article that will sort of explain this. This is a great example, by the way, because Ukrainian people are not some special sort of Ubermensch people that sort of just, this is just an example of the fact that if you create friendly conditions, easy regulations, an easy path to employment for immigrants, it will become a boost to economy. We have sort of this sort of case where it just plays out. We just have this clear-cut example of the government creating a simplified way, a good path for immigrants to enter the workforce, and that it's just beneficial for the GDP of the country, in this case Poland. Let us see. Ukrainian people are the driving force behind Polish economy. Now everything will depend on the uh, now everything will depend on how the war will end, which is very interesting because of enough that it's significant, and the projections are that if the war ended soon with Ukrainian victory, then about 80% of Ukrainian people here would probably return to rebuild, right? Which would, by, of course, logically speaking, that would mean that this GDP boost that Poland is experiencing right now would just disappear. And on the other hand, if the war sort of drags on for a long time, or God forbid, if it ends up with a Russian victory, then of course people will stay here and not, and continue working in Poland, continue sort of building a life here. And it's just, a very, very weird dilemma, right? It's a very weird dilemma that if Poland is experiencing a big benefit from uh, Ukrainian people being here, and if the war ends soon, that benefit will evaporate. Very strange. And yes, I'm gonna put it out there. I hope the war ends as soon as possible with a Ukrainian victory. Because, boom, we should not forget that a strong, rebuilt Ukraine to the east of Poland is also a very good partner. Putting aside the fact that, morally speaking, it's not really a contest. From the beginning of the Russian invasion, the full-scale invasion, the Ukrainian refugees have put into the Polish budget. We're gonna be using English billions here, US billions measurement. The Ukrainian refugees have put into the Polish budget between 24.8 to 33.6 billion zlotys, which I'm gonna, I'm gonna translate this. I'm gonna translate the higher amount for you. 33. So 33 billion zlotys is about hold on. Where's the thing? Where's the thing? Hmm. It's about Jesus. It's about this amount. Hold on. Hold on. 33, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. No, not 10, 9. There we go. It's this amount. It's this amount of money of US dollars. But the biggest point is that Ukrainian people have put more money in than they have taken out. So the report by this organization UNHCR has demonstrated that Ukrainian people have put much more money into the Polish budget than the Polish government has sort of dedicated to helping Ukrainian people, which means, again, a boost to economy. As it turns out, Ukrainians that are disliked by certain members of Polish society in reality are the driving force behind the Polish economy. The latest research on the effect of Ukrainian refugees on the economy has shown that the Ukrainians have put more into the Polish budget than they took out. In 2023, Ukrainian refugees who arrived in Poland after the start of the full-scale invasion of Russia have raised Polish GDP by between 0.7 to 1.1%, as stated by the report from the Bureau of the High Commissioner of the United Nations to refugees, for refugees. In a longer perspective, this number will most probably grow from between 0.9 to 1.35%. The research is called The Analysis of the Effect of Ukrainian Refugees on the Polish Economy. It has been requested to the completion of this research has been requested by the UN and has been done by an international company called Deloitte. The fast integration of Ukrainian people on the Polish market has been helped by the policy of the government. The people that came to the country after 24th of February 2022 did not need to apply for a permit to work, which means that all formalities when it came to the legalization of work was put on the hiring person. Quick integration. According to UNHCR, by the end of 2023, in Poland, there was over 950,000 Ukrainian people. In the first year of the Russian invasion, 82% of Ukrainian refugees found a job in Poland, and 27% did it during the first month upon coming to the country. Newest research shows that currently in Poland there is between 225,000 to 360,000 working refugees from Ukraine, which is pretty cool, isn't it? It's just a case study of how immigration positively affects economy. The positive influence of Ukrainian refugees on the Polish economy was possible because of the active engagement in the job market, said the ex-minister of environment Stanisław Żelichowski. In spite of all the things that were happening in the context of the war in Ukraine, various personal problems and other negative factors that would affect the ability of Ukrainian people to work, a lot of them have found a job in Poland, or a lot of them even start their own companies in Poland, which brings real benefits to the Polish economy, Żelichowski adds. The report points or shows or sort of indicates that the number of Ukrainian people hired in the sort of, I guess, food market. We're going to translate this term. So the report points to Ukrainian refugees working in the processed food industry has risen by 34,000 people. When it comes to trade in the food industry, fixing cars and other services, 18,000 more people are working in those sectors. When it comes to the sectors of social services, healthcare, 12,000 more Ukrainian people were hired. And this is quite interesting and, like, I don't know, this is, I would say, relevant to me personally, because when my mom had her ill-fated accident last year, when she had to go to the rehab center, when we had to do this privately and pay for it, a lot of the people that were taking care of my mom were Ukrainian. There were Ukrainian doctors, there were Ukrainian nurses, and my mom had a roommate, a very loudly complaining, far right supporting old hag. I'm not gonna be nice about this. And one time she started complaining to my mom about all those Ukrainians that are coming to the country, all those refugees that are just coming and, I don't know, siphoning or something. And mom said, you do know that most people that are taking care of us here are Ukrainian, right? And that just basically shut her up. And the lady had nothing more to say. So the healthcare sector is pretty relevant, especially since there's actually a shortage of doctors in Poland right now. So this is a great help when it comes to a very real deficit that is here. When it comes to administrative sector, 8,000 hired Ukrainian people. Education and information and communication has lured in 7,000 Ukrainian workers to Poland. In Poland, there is a need for physical labor as well as for intellectuals. When we think as to why Ukrainian people bring benefits to Poland, we need to take into consideration the closeness of both cultures, the closeness of, like, the cultures are close, the mentalities are close. Poland does a really good job at sort of adapting Ukrainian citizens to the new reality and encourages them to seek employment and to become active on the market, explains Żelichowski. Ukrainians are driving the Polish economy. Experts have analyzed an influx of Ukrainian refugees and their effect on the Polish economy. They have counted direct and indirect sort of money entering the budget. In 2022, it was 0.8 to 1%. Last year, it was 1.3, 1.6%, which gives us 10.1 to 13.7 billion zlotys in 2022 and 14.7 to 19.9 billion zlotys in 2023. It's like Ukrainian people waiting for on a train station in Przemysl at the end of 2022. The Polish government has spent 15 billion zlotys for the support of Ukrainians in 2022 and 5 billion in 2023. Help that includes a one-time payment of 300 zlotys, a monthly payment for children, because in Poland, when people have children, they get certain extra payments per each child. And from January this year, it became 800 zlotys instead of 500. At the same time, only 7% of Ukrainian refugees sort of live only off of social services. Like only 7% of Ukrainian refugees don't have any income and depend on the Polish state to survive. 80% of Ukrainian refugees live off either a steady job or a part-time job. The next 7% lives from the money from relatives or friends, and 5% depends on social services or retirement money that they get from the Ukrainian government. So the Ukrainian government sends money to that 5% living in Poland. Right? Ukrainian people were able to create whole systems for themselves and for Polish people. So they do not need additional programs, said Piotr Kulpa, who was tied to the economy sort of sector in the past. Poland has adopted this sort of approach. You should work and create good environment for your people. Then more will come, said Kulpa. The return to Ukraine is the final chapter of this little article, of this little topic that we're discussing. Because, of course, as I said before, since Ukrainian people have been a great boon to Polish economy, it stands to reason that should Ukrainian people leave, for example, if the war ended, that benefit to the economy would disappear, which of course means that Poland should accept more refugees. Like, it's just straight up evidence. Like, I don't think, personally, I don't think as much. I do agree that Polish and Ukrainian cultures are close, that there is this sort of closeness of cultures, but I just don't think it's a factor when it comes to economy. I just think that this proves that immigration is a benefit, a net positive. Like we literally have a case study here of immigration working. Like this is a great argument against all those lunatics that um, scream about closing borders and invasions of immigrants. Expenditure on refugees from the Polish government has already been recompensed by Ukrainians. Ukrainians have already paid more than what has been given to them by the Polish government. And it has been already recompensed by Ukrainians that pay their taxes in Poland since the beginning of the Russian invasion. We're talking about 12.3 to 15.2 billion zlotys in 2022 and 18.2 to 22.5 billion in 2023. However, according to Piotr Kulpa, Warsaw will probably listen to the request of the Ukrainian government as not to create too good an environment for Ukrainian people, because that could potentially make them want to stay forever. And the Ukrainian government would really like for there to be somebody to be rebuilding Ukraine when the war ends. I believe that all of it is up to how the war will end. If the war will end with a victory and real guarantees of safety will appear, and Ukraine will start functioning normally, about 80% of Ukrainian people will probably return to Ukraine to rebuild. I think it's a pretty reasonable assumption to make, right? I think it's yeah. And so the decision to return to Ukraine will be made, of course, a lot more difficult should the war drag on. And unfortunately, right now, everything seems to indicate that the war will indeed drag on. It seems to be a thing that is sort of in the cards for now. So what do you think? What did you think? Do you think that this sort of example of Ukrainian people becoming a great boost to the Polish economy, do you think it's, as I've said, an example of immigration being a benefit to a country? Or do you think that it's perhaps just a result of this very specific situation? Maybe it's just because Ukrainian and Polish people are so similar that these benefits manifested. Do you think it has anything to do with that? Or do you think it has more to do with the fact that Ukrainian people were giving a much simplified form, a much simplified road to entry into the work market? What do you think? What is your opinion? Leave your opinions below and stuff. Leave your thing. I personally think it has less to do with the similarity of the cultures per se, and more to do with the fact that as like the that Ukrainian people were able to not have to go through certain hoops in order to get a job. That is my opinion, but you know. So now we finished this great, amazing, cool segment.